Horrible. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest episode of Football is Life. We are back again. Here we go. This is a nice pre-Christmas episode. But it doesn't feel that festive, right? With all this fixtures being cancelled, right? This is not so it's kind of mixed emotions here at Football is Life. So where else to start? What do we have to? I mean, how are we feeling about? Obviously a tough time just now. Cases are rising, and like there's been outbreaks in professional football teams. Almost every team, I think, now has had some form of outbreak, and there's been a raft of cancellations. How are we feeling about that, boys? Like, what's the thoughts?
I think we should ask Pat, because I feel like Spurs have been hit the hardest in the sense that they've not played for a month or something, haven't they?
Yeah, we had an outbreak of snow first, and then we had an outbreak of COVID that actually canceled some games as well. So I think the only thing that's been difficult for me is trying to multiply by 3 all the games that they haven't played and add that to their point total and figure out where they would actually be in the standings if they won all of them.
We've all been there, Pat. Don't do that. It's because it never plays out. I thought Spurs were just taking a break to rewire Harry Kane's brain. No, it wouldn't take that long, actually. Sorry, that's silly. That would take a matter of hours. That's silly of me. Listen. I mean, Spurs. Yeah. I mean, what do we think? It's the fixtures will the benefit. You kind of think, well, yeah, you've got games in hand, but the fixtures are going to pile up at some point, aren't they? And it's the league's in this weird situation where it seems to be like the desire is to keep going, right? So I don't know that we think, it could be, I'm worried like behind closed doors to me, which isn't the same sport, comes back. And then I think the competition is I think that's what I'm worried about. How do they keep it safe? And it's just, it's difficult. I don't know what the right answer is. Maybe, Frank said maybe a circuit, like a week break, take a week and let everyone just like the teams bubble and do what they've got to do. But what do we think?
Well, Lee, what do you think happens this weekend? Will they play or no?
I don't think they should play. I feel like one of the best things about the Christmas period, like sort of Christmas, Boxing Day, that sort of period of time, is the fact that you have game after game after game. I'd rather forego playing some team for this weekend and just have like a blockbuster next week, because I think that we usually need the football to take the edge off the fact that we've got Christmas with family.
Agreed. And there's only 2 games scheduled. So listen, I know we cover this at the end, but listen. Fantasy football tips is going to be really simple this weekend. The wild card, if ever there was a time where it would be applicable, it's like, for people that are behind it, it's a bit risky, but if you could, it's like, and the good thing is with the wild card, it's like, you can only pick so many players, right? So it becomes kind of obvious and easy who you pick. But yeah, my goodness. I mean, this is a disaster for some people in fantasy football. And guess what's going to happen, folks? There's going to be double weeks. So if you've played that triple captain already, oh dear, unless you had a big week with somebody like Salah, you're in big trouble, folks. There we go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one of us had a really big week this last week, even with some of the games canceled. I'm not sure how you both did in your fantasy.
I did pretty well.
Week, but yeah, well, you need to get your score fixed, because mine was a little better.
Yeah,
I think I had 71
well,
in the last couple of days.
You did well, but in adversity you did well, and I know Ben Chilwell's still out. So I mean, that's a miracle you got any points, because you're just like triple captain Ben Chilwell every week if you could, wouldn't you? That's it. I'm still waiting. Wait a minute, I need to bring it up. So Dalot, it's going to be interesting to see this. So I did watch the last United game, and he was absolutely dreadful as anticipated. So I'm just excited to see how that one pans out. Yeah, let's see.
Hasn't he just kept 2 back-to-back clean sheets, as in like in the league?
But he's not. But you're claiming he's like some kind of like points machine. Like you're claiming like he's Chilwell. You're saying he's a guy you should put in. Like you're like Trent's rocket last night. Like Look, United get the odd clean sheet here and there. Yeah, they're going to get clean sheets sometimes, right? But you could put Harry Maguire in then. So, what I mean? You're pitching Dalot as playing high, getting crosses in the box and being this. Yeah, he's not that player, mate. He's not. He's
I think we've got to give him time. We've got to give him time. I feel like I don't think that he's going to be anywhere on the sort of level of Trent or Cancelo or Reece James at all. But I do think that eventually he'll start netting some points because of the way that Rangnick plays. And I can't see Wan-Bissaka getting back into the team. The man's a liability.
I think Wan-Bissaka will get back in, mate, based on his defensive ability. He can actually defend. That's why he'll get back in. So he's going to have to choose. So, like, Wan-Bissaka cannot attack. He's terrible on the ball. Dalot can't defend. he's better than Wan-Bissaka on the ball, but then so are all of we. So it's like, look, it's like he's not. So I don't think there's enough there. I'm predicting Dalot is going to be out of that team by January. So that's my prediction. There you go.
Predictions on the show haven't necessarily been
outstanding.
I think we're probably hitting a 50-50 rate, because I mean, Pat's prediction of Chelsea going to 5th is slowly becoming true.
Pat, that's right. By the way, Pat, you love to see it. You do love.
You love to see it.
You do. If there's something you love to see, it's Thomas Tuchel kind of. He's come in and he's had this like, you hate to see that when he's coming in and they've done so well so quickly. He's almost can just be as arrogant and cocky and smug as he wants, and you kind of can't say anything. And now all of a sudden it's like he doesn't really have the answers when the wheels are falling off. And you do love to see it. And again, back to the Lukaku question. Let's see what happens, but let's see what kind of season he has. I think that our Chelsea predictions have been spot on. Ben Chilwell for fantasy, yes. Chelsea slide to 5th, coming to fruition. Lukaku not being better than Ivan Toney or Callum Wilson or Dave Kitson, coming to fruition. There you go. Football is Life is like an anti-Chelsea podcast now, right?
No, I watched the Everton Chelsea game last night, and I think my wife watched about 4 seconds of the game. She happened to watch the Everton goal just right in that moment, and we saw the replay, and she's like, "Well, that sure was lucky." And I'm like, "You should have seen the rest of the game. I mean, the fact that they're even in this and it's even close, and then they get the equalizer, that was really very lucky." But there's just things aren't working out for Chelsea right now, and you love to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you do love to see it. Agent Rafa again. Agent Rafa has been you love that, don't you? He's still on Liverpool's payroll. Everyone knows it. He's just going out there to help us out. But there we go. Bit of controversy in the Liverpool game last night. Not like me to bring up Liverpool. Obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold with some utter filth that you just an absolute rocket. Beautiful shot. But bit of drama around about head knocks and listen, Mike Dean is one of the most controversial and probably unloved referees that's ever refereed the game, because he just kind of seems like a bit of a evil gremlin or like an orc. I don't know. But anyway, what do we make of I don't know if you saw it. There was a potential, a head injury. I'm doing this for a reason, right? That he didn't stop the game for, and then I don't know, 5 seconds later, Jota scores. Waleed, what do you think?
I reckon the problem is that the players are almost their worst enemies in this situation, because there's so many occasions where someone will get flicked on the cheek or maybe not even get hit at all on the face or head, and then they will go down, and then it turns out they're actually totally fine. They just wanted to break up play or slow things down. There needs to be a lot less, and this is the problem. It's the same with simulation diving. It's hurting the game, because someone is going to have a really horrible head injury one day, and then it's going to be a case of, you should have stopped the game. But, the previous game, Ryan Fraser probably held his face. I don't know. But I think, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's too much crying wolf.
I agree. It was like the David De Gea incident when Arsenal scored, right? I said the same thing. I would be going, seeing Lancey's getting carried off on a stretcher, I'd be going absolutely bonkers if he's my goalkeeper. And I mean ballistic. Last night, if I'm on that team Newcastle and he's down and he isn't going off with a concussion and there's nothing wrong with him, I am going through him, because I'm like, and I think you're right. This is the problem with it. You're right. The problem here is there was no head knock last night. You watch that incident, I can guarantee you, I still play football, right? There was no head knock, right? He absolutely went down. The pair of them were looking to try and get the game stopped because they bumped into each other, right? That's what happened. And I'm in no doubt about that. Obviously, only that person knows how much pain they were in or whatever. But the problem is, like you say, how do referees know? And the game goes 2 ways. It's interesting this year, right? They've decided to say at the beginning of the year, we're going to let more things go, right? We want the game to flow better. And everyone's like, yes, yes, yes. And then it's like, there's too many wild tackles, right? We don't like this. We don't like... and so the problem is, I feel sorry for the referees. I actually thought Mike Dean, for once, I've actually backed him and said, and it's not just because I support Liverpool, but he actually made the right call. As in, when you look at that, his instinct was right, that they were feigning injury to try and get an advantage, which is the right call. The problem is, because of concussion and all these, the latest things about, heading the ball and all these things, there's a lot of focus on head injuries, right? And things that happen to Christian Eriksen, and Aguero's had to retire, and there's all these, horrible things that can happen that extra scrutiny comes on to say, hey, you should always err on the side of caution. The problem is this: if you err on the side of caution all the time, they'll just take the piss out of it, right? I'd like you say we'll lead. And the problem is, if you say, no, we're going to go the other way, it's like the tackling, we're going to let more tackles go, people will just foul more. They'll do more of those fouls that are not as clear, but they'll just get away with more of them. And players will always live in the edge of the rules and try and get an advantage. I think what we just got to try and, I think the problem with these things is like the referees are caught in the middle of this. And I think it's almost impossible, right? There was a debate about the penalty situation last night. So there was the Kufal West Ham decision for, I think it was Lacazette, the foul on. And then there was one last night where Trent on Ryan Fraser. And again, I think it was an ex-referee made a good point. He said, look, like he agreed with both. He said, look, because they were saying VAR is not consistent. They said, no, but he said, look, VAR is consistent because they both left it with the on-field decision because they're very subjective calls, right? And I think David Moyes said that the West Ham one was actually a foul. I think this is where managers can help, in my opinion, by saying, you see if Eddie Howe comes out and says, like, he made out like he was dazed for 4 or 5 minutes, but they didn't invoke the concussion protocol. So you can't have it both ways, mate. So I think the managers need to lead this a little bit to say, look, by addressing their team and say, we need to stop this stuff. I think that's the only way this gets solved. It's not on the referees for me.
Do you think the problem that we have is that other leagues don't care about it as much? In the sense of, for example, you go to a La Liga match. Well, I say you look at a La Liga match, they are on the floor half the time, if not longer. And that's also something that becomes quite important when it comes to European matches and everything too. Do you think that a lot of the way that we play football now is being influenced by the outside of actual play from other leagues in that sense?
I think so. I think having the players come from it if I'm playing against a team and you're seeing a team getting an advantage from simulating and exaggerating contact, right? Then it's kind of like, you're almost like the instinct is like, if you can't beat them, join. It's like, we have to try and level the playing field somehow, right? So it's like, so you either say, we're just going to go in. If you're going to dive and simulate, I'll show you what a foul looks like, right? And that can come with negative repercussions potentially, or you start doing it. I think it's where people see that they can benefit from it, right? This is the problem. And this is where I feel like, like Salah, I'll be honest, like Salah has simulated, in my opinion, right? And there's other players that are renowned for the league. Sterling's another one, like they are, and they're, nobody can tell me they don't do it, right? And they do that. And I would like to see the managers of those teams have to address that. I think it's, other managers commenting on their diving simulating doesn't really help. It's about the managers of those teams that have to address those things to say, we don't want that in the game. And the slight thing I'd say about refereeing though is like this thing where, like, if you don't go down, you don't get it. And it doesn't mean it's not a foul. And I think referees have to show a willingness to say, no, I'm going to recognize that it impeded your progress. It's like you don't go down unless you have to, because you're still you feel like you still got a chance of getting the decision, right? I think that's part of the issue that drives it from a refereeing standpoint, is if you don't go down, they'll just play on, right? Because it's easier, whereas it could be a foul. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they should do there, but what I will say from a fan's perspective is I kind of like it when Salah dives. He's going full speed and then he just sort of ragdolls for no good reason sometimes. I love it. I think it's just fun to watch.
Oh, really? That's a refreshing view, Pastor.
I could not disagree. I could not disagree with you more. It annoys me so much.
He's a secret Liverpool fan.
I knew it. I knew that he was. He was a Red fan in some ways, either Liverpool or United. No, I even when City players do it, I guess I'm furious whenever they leap to the floor. Sterling, for instance. I mean, Jackie Grealish, yeah, fair enough. He gets foul to no end. That's more legitimate. But if someone's just getting prodded and they fall to the floor, James Maddison,
terrible guy, terrible hair, unforgivable things yeah. So James Maddison is dreadful. He had I think it was against Newcastle, I think, as well, was it? I think it might have been. Dreadful. I think it was Lascelles. It was one of the most blatant dives you'll ever see. That was a bad decision, but interesting stuff. So yeah, what else? What Man City? I mean, Man City, well, we better give you some airtime to be so an absolute thumping 7-0. Looks like, I mean, they're getting their players back. Kevin De Bruyne decided he can play football again. Apparently, I didn't realize he said that he's still suffering badly from COVID. I don't know if you read that. He said that after 3 or 4 sprints, he feels like he's So there's clearly underlying problems there, which is obviously concerning. But yeah, he's back in the goals, and I think was it half of City's team scored the other night. Even Nathan Ake got a goal, who I didn't even know. I forgot he was there. There you
go. So yeah, I mean, for me, the second that Ake got on the score sheet, I just completely disregarded the result as this is just unmerciful. This is just a bit rude, really, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I'm the most happiest. I am the happiest person for Jack Grealish. You watch him play, he does everything right apart from that little tiny bit at the end, which is get it in the back of the net. And I think that he was just getting into his head a lot. And he's not really meant to be playing. I mean, he's not used to playing that sort of false nine role. So I think he's trying to get to grips with it a bit more, which is nice. But good to see him finally get on the score sheet. It was a nice game for him to play in. Ake is a weird one. I don't know why he was playing or what he was doing. But John Stones as well. John Stones.
You know what the irony is here, Willie, which you love, is that ironically Nathan Ake is a better fantasy pick than Diogo Dalot. Isn't that isn't that something? Isn't that something, mate? There you go.
Well, any City player at this point is a better pick. I mean, we are top of the league for a reason, right?
Grealish finished his dinner one time. That's awesome. That's great to see.
He did. And what I would say now, that the challenge becomes, and just to spin it to Man City for a fantasy perspective just now, is Bernardo Silva should have been called that, had to be nail on, because he's the only, and he still to me is a nail on, because he's the only one I would say he'll start 90% of the games currently. That could change, right? The problem now is it's Pep ball, right? It's Pep now with fantasy is a fantasy manager's nightmare, right? Because in that midfield now, trying to predict who's going to play, even out the wingers, you could put Foden in and then Mahrez starts ahead of him, or Sterling. It's so difficult to predict. So fantasy managers, it's your Man City pick, which you should all have a Man City midfielder in your team. But it's can you align with the crazy mind of Sherlock Holmes? I mean, Pep Guardiola with just whatever he's thinking. It's something to
I don't know. It's pretty simple, because the thing is, at the end of the day, you have to put in Edison, has to be bolted on. I think they've conceded 9 goals this season, and they've had less than 100 shots on goal, throughout the entire season so far, all the teams, which is remarkable. So he's pretty much always going to get a clean sheet. Then either Diaz or Laporte have to be in there. Probably Diaz, because he's probably the sturdiest.
Cancelo.
No. And then go with Cancelo. Don't even go with any midfielders. Don't go with any strikers. Just go with those 3 points, regular points.
Pat, we're taking the lead off the fantasy football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, I've got a quiz question for you guys while we're on the subject of fantasy football, right? I want to test you guys a little bit. So we're in a couple of leagues on PremierLeague.com, and they've got this nice little score, set up where they can tell you how many points each one of your players have got, and anybody who's in anybody else's roster as well. I'm sure you have no trouble knowing that Mo Salah is the person on top of the league, most points so far this season. 168 he's got for the year, which is ridiculous, right? But he's listed as a midfielder. So my quiz question for you, for all the players listed as forwards in the Premier League, who's got the most points in Premier League so far as a forward? So far this season?
I would go for
Jamie Vardy.
Yes, Jamie Vardy.
We got 2 votes for Jamie Vardy. Not Jamie Vardy.
Let me guess again. I can get this. I can get this. Mikel Antonio.
Mikel Antonio.
Yeah.
Also wrong. Also incorrect.
Really?
Not right. Emmanuel Dennis. Dennis is the number 1 forward scorer this season. He's got 84 points, which is only half of what. Yeah, it's half of Mo Salah, but he's got 7 goals, 6 assists. He's been crazy, and I would have never thought that he was the guy at the forward position this year, but he is.
Yeah, I've got him and Antonio on my team, but I don't know. Yeah, I didn't think he was that high. That's crazy.
Yeah, 84 points.
You heard it. Listen, if you're not riding that horse, you're not riding Emmanuel Dennis, you should be, folks, right? There you go. Get on that horse. Back him, get him and Antonio on your team. West Ham, as predicted in this podcast, wobbling a little bit. Listen, we could talk about Spurs, but we can't because they've not played any football, right? Just a dreadful excuse for a club. But Arsenal on the other side of London, Pat, we're going to have to bring this up here. They dispatched West Ham 2-0. They're now very much firmly in that top 4 conversation, serious contenders. What's your thoughts on the Gunners? And yeah, I mean, this is almost the look at the league. There's a top 3, and then obviously Chelsea will end up 5th, and then there'll be the fight for the top 4. But how are you feeling about Arsenal's form, Pat?
I hate to say it. You don't love to see it if you're a Tottenham fan the way I am. But I have to say, like, this bold statement. At the start of the year, you asked who I thought was going to be the first coach that was sacked, and I said Arteta. And I think right now, if I'm looking at who is the coach of the year in the Premier League, I think it's him. I think that you started off with 3 losses, and now they're all the way up to 4.
Okay. Wow.
No, I mean, I think he's going to get some votes, but for me, I don't think honestly, I don't think the Gooners have that strong a team, and somehow they're in 4th. So I think he must be doing something right.
I tell you what, mate. I tell you what. You know what? That I am an Arteta fan. I always liked him as a player. I thought he was a very intelligent player. And for the most part, I've liked him at Arsenal. There's been a period there, which is towards the end of last year, where I felt like it was like I thought, oh no, is the wheels falling off? But for the most part, I've been like they should stick with him. And when you say that, I know what you mean, because I feel like. I mean, you could look at Wolves and Bruno Lage, and there's other managers that are more obvious choices. But with Arteta, I feel like he's been up against a lot, right? And it's not like you say, not just the squad, but look at the Aubameyang thing, right? So they're arguably, somebody said, who start the season, who's their star player? He would be the guy you'd say, right? He's their 20 goal a season guy. He should be that guy. He's shown he can hit some of those numbers, right? And he's returned late from a trip. He's now apparently not eligible for selection, is the latest line this week, right? Who is the captain of your football club, has been stripped of the captaincy. And you're kind of going like, wow, like, there's no doubt they're a better, like, there'd be a better squad with him in it, right? If his head's right and he's playing well. But it's just like, I just feel like Arteta has had injuries to deal with, like bringing new players in. I think they signed good, like the right positions, the right type of players, particularly in Ben White and like Ramsdale. They've strengthened where they need to. But I think you're right. The more you think about it, if they somehow, I think it'll depend on where they end up. If they end up 4th, I think you have to give it to them. Probably have to get, unless like City do something or Liverpool do something crazy with regards to a winning streak. But yeah, what do you think, Willie? What's your reaction to the Gunners? I get the sense you might not believe that you think the bubble might burst again, right?
I mean, I feel like that's where they're going to stay. I can't see them moving from 4th. I think we said a few weeks ago, a few podcasts ago, even like, what position do we think, who's going to come 4th? And I said Arsenal. And I think that's because they're not a better team than Chelsea. They're not a better team than Liverpool or City, but they're better than most of the teams below them. And they're probably a bit better than your Spurs and United right now. Pat is shaking his head with disdain. But
Conte is gonna pull it out the hat for you.
I don't know. I feel like this, even though, Spurs fans have had a break and it's been a nice little holiday for them, not having to watch their team play. It's also probably left Harry Kane being slower than he already is. So I don't know, but at the same time, I feel like Arsenal are doing exactly what we expected. I feel like they are getting the results they should. I don't think there's been any shock results apart from the United match where I thought they should have won that. But otherwise, I think, he's doing a good job. Don't get me wrong. Arteta's doing a good job. He's been taught by the best. But do I think that he's the best manager of the season? I don't know. I'm looking at the Moisés.
Yeah, so you could be right on the manager of the year part, but Arsenal finishing ahead of Tottenham, I mean, come on. They've got 29 points. They've got 29 points. Spurs have got 25 points with 3 games in hand, and the 3 games in hand are Burnley, Brighton, and Leicester. So they're going to get 4 points out of that.
They'll get 3.
You got to say they'll get 3 out of those 3 games.
They'll get 3.
Come on, Waleed. Come on.
Wow.
Come on.
Pat, you know what? There's nothing better than a fan of a club that just like, I mean, it's like listening to an Everton fan, right? It's like, or even Newcastle fans. It's like, realize where you are. Like, it's like, are you better than Leicester and Brighton right now? I don't know.
Yes.
I think they're tight games. Burnley's like, you could, like, if Burnley sometimes they play Man City, like, they play Man City one week, they get smashed. They play Chelsea, they get a drop. But they're that kind of, it depends what Burnley show. I think if you score early against them, the wheels kind of fall off the game plan a little bit. But Burnley are one of those like Jekyll and Hyde teams that are like, it's a 50-50 chance of it being an easy win or like being a really tough, hard fought for anything. Brighton will be a tricky game. I'm saying I wouldn't bank in 4 points. I think is realistic, but where does that put you? It puts you kind of where Arsenal
puts us tied. Yeah.
So yeah, and then it'll come down to, listen, I do think January is going to be key I think for the fourth spot, it will be key. Like my instinct is Tottenham and like there might not be a lot of business done, and in that case, it probably favors Man United because of squad depth versus anything else.
Yep.
But if one of those teams makes one or two good signings, that could, I would say, could have it go a long way to defining where, and injuries as well could go.
But which of those three teams is going to have the best transfer window, do we think?
I think Tottenham, like if anyone's going to do it with the new match, I feel like they're going to be the most motivated to like. And Conte's basically said, look, the squad, like he's just been. I think it's worse than he thought it was, is what he's basically said. That's how I've interpreted what he said. So I don't think Rangnick is in his remit now. It's more stabilize rather than go to the. I think like get Pogba back in and playing, and that's. And I don't know, like, yeah, they've almost got. They need to like Martial. They need to shed some players first. So I feel like an Arsenal. I don't know. I feel like they did their business in the summer. So I mean, yeah, that's my feelings. I think Spurs.
I've heard that Conte's got a gentleman's agreement with Levy that he's going to spend the money during the transfer window. So yeah, we'll see what we can do with that.
Ask Harry Kane about those. He'll tell.
I'd put money on Spurs having a good transfer window, even though they had a good transfer window earlier. Like they got Brian Hill, they got Cristiano Romero. Who else did they buy that was reasonable? Pardon?
Real, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is he any? Is he? When I first saw he looked kind of just a bit of a nonsense player. Is he good?
Yeah, he can play.
Really?
Yep.
But then so can Diogo Dalot.
Oh, mate, if he's in that realm, then Spurs are in big trouble. I like Reguilon. I think Reguilon's a guy that can like he could be contributing more. Like he's got ability. Like I like him. But this guy Royale, I remember again. This is the start of the season though. Was I really paying attention? He just looked like a nonsense player. But
so I do have to quickly. I don't know. I'm putting money on Arsenal staying fourth. I can't see Spurs doing it just because Conte needs a while to condition his players properly. I remember watching the Juventus All or Nothing on Amazon Prime, and even in the first episode, there was a clip of Pirlo saying, what I'm doing to my players isn't half as bad as what Conte did to us. Like people would throw up after every training session. So I feel like, I mean, you've got players like Ndombele, Dyer, Kane. Like, are they going to be conditioned in time to play for Conte, right? I don't know.
Eric Dyer definitely won't be. No, Eric Dyer is a no for me. Yeah, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to say, what about, are Aston Villa in the conversation now with Super Stevie G? They're not. No. Why not?
Absolutely. They're just not. Yeah, they're a mid-table team. They're not going to be in the top four. No way.
I can see them touching seventh. Maybe sixth. I can't see them top four.
Have you seen their form since Stevie took over?
They're doing well. They are doing well, but at the same time, it's that manager bounce that I see.
Better than well. They're not conceding. I mean, they arguably could have got something off City and Liverpool in both those games. Like it's like they were in those games, which is no mean feat. And then the other games they've basically won. That they've got points in every game and they've won most of them. It's like they're keeping clean sheets and I'm telling you look at kind of before. I wouldn't rule them out of being like I'm not saying they're going to get fourth. I think that's a stretch because I think too many teams would have to. They're maybe a bit too far behind, but I think they could be in that top. If you look at European places, I'd say they've got and again, motivated owners like if Gerrard, and I think he's got. Like, look at the squads, like compared to Arsenal's. I'm going, like they maybe got a bit. They got maybe at least as much depth. So I'm not seeing a big difference in the squad strength between them and like Spurs and Arsenal, like massively, especially with Aubameyang and Kane's situations at the moment. That usually would be a differentiator. That I don't see, and even at United with Ronaldo, like where is he in the scoring charts in the league? I don't think he's in the top 5-6 scorers in the league, is he? Like I don't think he's in that picture. So it's like I think usually these big clubs have that differentiator, and obviously I'm not saying Aston Villa do, but if you don't have that, I don't know how much better you are in Aston Villa at the moment because they're a decent team.
But here's a question to you two: do you want to be in contention for Europe? Like, as in outside of the top four, do you want to be in contention for the Europa League or the Europa Conference League? Is that something a club actually wants?
Not the second one, the Europa League, yes.
but the impact on your sort of top four hopes when it comes to the Europa League just sort of hits hard.
If you win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League. So it's like,
but that's a big if. Like when you have teams that are very good at it, like Sevilla and Villarreal. Like,
but it's easy. I don't know. I think knockout, like, I think you sometimes got a better chance. Like, it's like, it's like getting top four is so, like, how many teams have actually finished, list of teams that finished in the top four since the inception of Premier League. It's an elite group of teams, right? You got the anomaly of Leicester, right? You get the odd anomaly, and Everton did it once, but I think in the Europa League, because of the way that it's stacked, it's not a truly elite competition. Like, it's not elite, means that, could West Ham go to, and knockout football is like where more miracles happen, right? I think that's my philosophy. So I would say if Liverpool are in a situation where, we're in an Arsenal rebuild kind of mode, we've been there, right? And that was the case, we should absolutely be going for that tournament, because that's another route into the Champions League, which unlocks money and gives you the ability to attract players, which is ultimately the reason the top four is a thing, is because of that, right? Because you don't win a title for being top four, you just get entry to an elite competition.
Yeah, it's extra games, extra money. I think there's reason to want to be in it, even if you don't make top four. I think the fifth and sixth are still reasonable. They're not great, but you're going to have extra gate. You're going to have extra kind of gate receipts and money, people coming to the game. So that's a positive thing for sure.
Americans always think about the dollars, right? That's it. Love it, Pat. Love it.
That's right.
All about the dollars.
So on the other side, on not on the top four, but kind of towards the lower end, I'm interested if we're at the halfway point almost now in the season. So disappointments. Pick either a player or a team that you think has been most disappointing for you through the course of this first half of the year.
Oh, a team is a pretty damning indictment. I mean, an entire team. Ooh.
That's who I've got a team I'm going to tell you about in a second, but I want to hear your thoughts on either a player or a team.
Okay. Let me think.
I think.
Go ahead, Willie. Don't you go? I'll go say. I'm torn between two teams, but I'll have a little think.
This is really hard. I think
I can go first then if you want.
Yeah. And I can give you mine if it's better for me to give you mine. I can do it.
Listen, I'll go. Team I've been most disappointed in is probably Leeds. That there are, as in a big fan of Leeds, as in like last year, and I love watching them play. And obviously, as a supporter of one of the more successful teams, you love playing them because typically, the way they play suits us a little bit. But no, I think they were just great to watch. They were good value, like great. Bielsa's personality style has been great. I think there's factors, but like, getting, I don't know, like they've just been like not as good. I don't know, something seems off there, and I felt that they could have, like, I'm not saying kicked on, but certainly at least I expect them to at least maintain like that. I'm not saying even finish as high, but maintain that level of like, when if Leeds are playing your team or Leeds are on the TV, I'd be like, yeah, I'll watch that game. Whereas this year I'm like, meh, I don't really care. So I think that's been my biggest, team wise, the biggest disappointment for me this year.
Okay, that's exactly who I listed too. So I just want to like agree with you and tell you, well, Lee, this is why we let this guy do all the talking, because he's so smart about what's going on in the game. So last year, 56 points. This year, after 17 games, they're on 16 points. Last year, they were +8 goal differential, and they scored 62 goals. We're halfway through their -15 goal differential, and they've scored 17 goals is all. So everything you said about Leeds is exactly the reason why I just think they're just really, really a huge disappointment this year.
I feel like I do have some sympathy with Leeds because they have had most of their squad missing for most of the season. And I'm sure Ross can sympathize when you have a lot of your key players missing. You will definitely deteriorate in terms of quality of football. Cough, cough, Van Dijk. But I think that the most disappointing team for me has got to be Leicester. Yep. What is happening there? Like, if they didn't have Jamie Vardy, if Jamie Vardy somehow comes down with COVID, they're going to lose every game he's not playing. If him and Tielemans one of those two go.
But they've also had a lot of injuries. I think that the concern with Leicester, and I totally agree with you, is that it's like, this is the Brodge, right? This is the Brendan Rodgers syndrome. And I've always said he's, to me, the kind of manager, it's a bit like Mourinho. Like, I'm not saying he's the same as him, where he goes somewhere and there's this initial uplift, and it's like, and he's a bit of a nutter, right? They just sense he's a little bit like, and he's very Marmite, right? And I think he has this initial impact, but then I feel like things start to fall apart. Like, after being there a couple of years, it's whether that I almost feel it's the players stop believing in, like, they get this kind of us against the world. Like Mourinho did that mentality, and it just starts to fall apart, and they don't really have a plan B. And I just wonder if we're seeing the kind of crumblings of the foundation, and it's another situation where he's going to be that kind of manager that struggles to sustain success and progress. That's my concern around it. There are injuries as well there. That is like, and again, that's probably why that they're where they are. But yeah, very poor season.
I think also something that concerns me a bit, I don't know what's happening with him, but Patson Daka was brilliant last season, and he's not been used much or at all apart from in like European matches, and he does exceptionally well there. So I'm not really sure what Rodgers is thinking of roll him out in Europe in the Europa League and do well, but then crash out of that and then not play your best striker there. I mean, Jamie Vardy's doing brilliant. Like, I don't know how he's doing this at his age and the number of games he's played, but I am wondering whether they're going to make Europe this season.
Did you call someone Marmite? Is that what I heard, Ross? What does that actually mean?
Marmite. Sorry, Marmite. So it's like Marmite. It's this stuff. It's like, you should try it, right? So it's Marmite. If he's Marmite, what that means is that you've heard somebody somewhere likes him, but you can't find anybody who likes him. Is that it? That's what I feel about Marmite. Right? I can't find an actual person. I've heard, oh, you should try this. You should try this. But horrible. I ask other people, do you like it? And no, I don't. No, it's horrible. Exactly. The idea is like basically what I mean by that is like the fans of the club that he goes to, like initially it's like they like it, but then even they start like losing faith. It's like Mourinho. He's very much like that, right? So it's like very few people you'll find that like that, and it's just a management style. It's like this kind of like, it's a bit maniacal. It's like everything's, it's like, I don't know. Like Pep is a bit like mental, but in a different way, in a way that like he's proved he can sustain and people still buy in. And it's like, whereas with Brodge, I wonder if the wheels are starting to fall off.
I guess my concern is that we keep getting linked with him, and I don't want him at City. He would not be good.
See it. That I would love to see.
I would hate to see that. I want Julian Nagelsmann. I want him, and that's it. That's the only.
No, listen, you can take Nagelsmann. I'm not worried about it. And I'd love to see Ole at the wheel at Man City. I'd just love to see Ole back in the bus. Just we'd love to see that. That would be the dream. But how are you feeling about City's title hopes then? Are you feeling good? They look good.
If we get through unscathed, I think it's going to all depend on Rodri's fitness. If Rodri loses fitness, like if he gets injured or if he comes down with COVID or something, then we're in a bit more trouble, because we're not a one-man team, but he is the player in the team. Like, he's what makes the team tick.
Yeah, and you've got basically no midfielders anyway, right? So
we've got no midfielders.
That's right. You've got 400 players for each position. All right, that's right. So a Man City fan worried about one injury, which is the hilarity of this is I mean, come on, like, yeah, there's an element of like just appreciating what you have. Don't worry about it. We all know, right? So like they wouldn't go and buy somebody anyway.
While we're on Man City, which team do you think has been better so far this year, Man City or Liverpool?
City. Liverpool have been good.
It's not there's no doubt. It's just that City look a bit more like, I would say there's an assuredness about the performance. Like, I think that's the minor difference. I think.
I disagree.
Okay.
I would say Liverpool's been better this season. I think City are a better team. I think City is a team who you can look at it and say, what's going to happen going forward, and probably put your money on them. But who's played better in the first half of the year? I just feel like Salah's been obviously the best player on the planet for the first half of the season. I mean, he may not be all the time, but for the first half of this year, he has been. And I just feel like they've been a more complete team. I see some sort of head scratcher games and kind of long stretches in games where City don't look like they're as good as you think they really are, and they've won games kind of a little bit close. They play great defense and all that, but I just feel like, for my money, in the first half of the year, Liverpool's actually looked a little better.
Liverpool have been the more exciting team to watch. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely are. They always have been. Like, they play really, really fun football, right? But City for example, the year that Liverpool won the league, what was really important about that style of play that they had was that they ground out results. Like, they won dirty. And that is essential for champions to have. Ross, there was a match against Crystal Palace, which I think Sadio Mane got a 92nd minute goal.
That's not That's not what. That's just keeping going, mate. We were relentless that year, and by a mile the best team in the league. By a mile, it wasn't even close, mate. Let's not forget what a distance we won it by. But yeah, no. Listen, I think if I'm being I still think City, to your point, Willie. I think about the course of a season, like we are more exciting and more impressive in certain ways, like but I feel like City, to your point, is more control around what they're doing, as in like which over the course of like 20 odd games, on average, they maybe pick up slightly more points, right? But that's not to say like like we are in a great run. I just feel like our games we are kind of still, even Newcastle last night, not as clear as you want it to be. And City's had those games against Villa, but same with Villa. We're just Chelsea have just gone the other side and they're dropping a little bit. So it's who's going to maintain that consistency, and it's hard to call. But I would say City are currently my marginal favourites, I would say. And squad strength is the other thing over a season. I think we don't have that. We're better, but we just don't have that depth. So that's my take. What about the bottom of the table very quickly before we finish? So down the bottom of the table, Newcastle can't seem to buy a win. I think they've got City next, and then I think they've got, I can't remember, they got as United. They've got two more horrible fixtures before they kind of actually play teams that they've got a chance of maybe beating. Haven't played that badly. They didn't play badly last night, so there's improvement. But they're down there. Norwich, poor Norwich, can't buy a win. And then I think you've got the rest of like Watford's, those other teams that are in and around the bottom of the table. So what do we think?
I quite like, personally. Oh, got a guest speaker on the podcast. I want Watford to stay up, just because they play exciting football. They actually have a go. They try to score. They don't just sit back and hope for the best. I mean, yeah, sometimes they will get absolutely floored, but that's good. They're playing football that their fans enjoy. I've been a defender of Burnley for a while, but there's only too many seasons that you can have of pure defensive football. They're dropping. Norwich are dropping.
I hope they go down. Burnley, for me.
Yeah, it's kind of the awesome. It's the awesome part of the Premier League for me is I think that all the teams are at least like there's not a huge gap between 10th and 20th from a talent and kind of ability level, and you can watch those teams that are down there in the kind of lower quarter of the table, the bottom 5 spots, and you can see games where they actually don't look that bad. Not Leeds, their last game, obviously, but there are times where they don't look that bad, and you say, oh, Norwich actually can play a little bit. But I think probably Norwich is the team that's the worst of the the 20 right now.
Yeah, they were unlucky against Man United, but they were. Yeah, I think Norwich. I feel Newcastle have got a chance to get out, but I hope Burnley go down. Then it's like I feel like Newcastle, Watford. I don't know who else is going to be. This is Southampton's and Brighton. The teams that could get pulled in. There's usually one that does. So there'll be a mix of maybe 3 teams there that are maybe making up that bottom 3. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, let's see what happens. But listen, I just want Dennis to keep scoring because get him in your fantasy team. But yeah, wild cards this week. But listen, chats, I think we're about at time. But we're going to do an end of year version next, right? So our next podcast, we're going to do like an end of year podcast to try and have a look back across the last 3 or 4 months. That's something to look forward to over the festive period, and means we can get together and talk over the festivities, which will be lovely. So but anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in between Christmas and New Year.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.